Hi everyone, so welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Chloe and I am a writer and musician here on YouTube. However, today you can probably tell that obviously from the title I'm doing like a completely different video to what I would usually do. Yeah, I'm basically going to be talking about my pregnancy and abortion story, so if they are things that you don't feel comfortable like hearing about, then I would much rather you protect your mental health and just click off. But if you are like in a similar position to me and this is like something you've been through, I'm hoping that this will make you somewhat feel less alone in like your decision, because I'm aware it's a very like controversial thing. I want to sort of reach out because I know what it feels like to feel all alone in this. If you feel like you're comfortable staying and watching this video, then please do carry on, but otherwise I feel like if you know you would be like easily triggered by this, like things I'm going to be talking about are obviously pregnancy, abortion. I'm here with a glass of water, no makeup, in my comfy clothes, and I've barely done anything with my hair. I've literally just brushed it. It's like it's still pretty straight from yesterday when I washed it. I'm also going to be talking about vomiting as well, so if that is like another sort of trigger for you, then I just want you to be aware of that, and if you feel like you can't watch this video, then please just click away. So I reckon I should probably just jump straight into it. Obviously, if you're like not new to my channel, then you will know that I actually kind of took a couple of weeks off of doing any sort of YouTube work. I took a couple of Saturdays off of uploading because of this whole thing, and I'm obviously going to go straight back to the beginning with everything. It'll all kind of just explain why I took those 2 Saturdays off and why I really needed it. So I'm going to be talking about the pregnancy first, and then we'll get to sort of the abortion sort of thing, but they are also linked. It all started back in October 2021, or if we want to be kind of pedantic, it started in September, like late September. That's when like my last like menstrual period started, so obviously day 1 of my cycle. So I obviously didn't miss my period that month, but then when October rolled around that sort of time again, the end of the month, my period was late. Well, it wasn't late because it never happened, but like I was kind of waiting for my period to start. It didn't start. Like a few days passed and I was starting to get worried about it, obviously, as you would. And so because of that, I obviously, you know, started panicking, and I had kind of told my family, like not my parents, but I had been talking to my sister about my period. So I was talking to my sister about it, and I decided that I was going to take a pregnancy test. So I took one, and lo and behold, it was positive. And I did take a couple of pictures. Obviously I don't like still have them with me, that's kind of disgusting, so I'll try to put like the pictures on the screen of the tests, because I took multiple tests because I was just like, there's got to be some sort of mistake. At first I was in denial, as you would be, and so at first, like when I found out, I knew that I didn't want the baby for many reasons. Like it just felt wrong. I was obviously in denial about it. It was obviously, you know, shocked and unexpected. I wasn't expecting to get pregnant at all, though I'm not on any birth control because I don't know what it is. I was on the combined pill from like, I think it was 2017 to 2019, so summer 2017 to like December 2019. I was on a combined pill, and then I came off of it because it made me feel like shit. I was depressed. Like the pill made me depressed. It's literally called a depression pill for a reason. Like I came off it, and to be honest, I'm petrified of going back on any sort of hormonal birth control. Point is, I wasn't on birth control, so I guess I shouldn't have been as shocked as I was. And so I had phoned the doctor and kind of just explained later that day, I think it was like October the 26th, I think, that I kind of found out, and contacted the doctor. They were just like, yeah, it sounds like you're pregnant. And so I kind of just told them that I don't want to keep it. And so they referred me to BPAS, which is short for British Pregnancy Advisory Service, and they then like got in contact with me. Obviously, you know, I told my boyfriend everything, and obviously he was shocked and everything like that. But as time actually went on, I started to come to terms with my pregnancy. I basically had a whole change of heart about it, and I wanted to keep it because, you know, I started becoming attached to my baby and connected with it. And so I had then, you know, phoned the doctors to tell them that I had changed my mind. It kind of, from that point sort of onwards, you know, I was just really happy. You know, my boyfriend was happy, but still a bit reluctant about it, because obviously, you know, we would have had to change our lives like completely for the baby. Like, we would have to like move in together, live somewhere together, because even though, you know, there is sort of space in my home now, it was just like we knew that it would be best for us to, you know, move out. And so we started planning everything like that, thinking about moving out, living together, money as well, and started thinking about names for like boy and girl names. We were really happy, you know, from that moment onwards. And I think at that point I was only like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. So I found out, I would say, relatively early. And so, you know, we were just excited to have the first appointment with the midwife, or the booking appointment, which I actually went to alone because my boyfriend was working, and it was just like a half an hour appointment anyway, like just checking my BMI, things like that. I think they did a blood test and obviously took a urine sample. As time went on, like, I was really struggling because technically in the first trimester it was really hard on my body. I think I actually was experiencing prenatal depression, and to me it felt like really bad. Depression and anxiety. And the midwife actually did like the mental health assessment that you like do regularly throughout the NHS, and I was quite high on that. So it was like they obviously wanted to keep an eye on me. So I was referred to the perinatal mental health team, but obviously I couldn't go forward with that. But also alongside of that, I was also struggling a lot with fatigue and mood swings. I was also throwing up a lot, like I was feeling incredibly nauseous, and I had a lot of food aversions. It even got to a point where literally all I was having was like either white bread or pasta, like tomato pasta or things like tomato soup. Like, that's all I could really stomach. Things like tomato soup and like beef ravioli from like the tin, or yeah, things like that basically. Pasta, packet pastas, stir-in sauces. So it was basically just bread, white bread and pasta that I could stomach. And even then, sometimes I would throw up. It sucked, but it was really hard on my stomach, and the more I threw up, like, the more acid there was like the back of my throat. If you didn't know, I have struggled with acid reflux ever since I was born. There is like obviously something wrong with my stomach, which I think I will probably try to go to the doctor about this year. But that was like the reason why I was like throwing up so much, because of my acid reflux. My stomach was so sensitive. It was so difficult to keep a lot of food down, and even then sometimes I would be throwing up pasta. It was just really difficult for me, and because I was like throwing up so much, it really affected my mental health. And though I was really happy about, you know, being pregnant and there being a baby there, that sort of like time period, I just felt like crap. I was depressed, I was still like throwing up, even like past sort of like the 12-13 week point, up until I had my abortion. So I felt just so ill. I was chronically ill, and I would struggle a lot. It was because of all like the pregnancy hormones and everything that my stomach was so bad. It like just really set off my acid reflux. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for about 7 years now, I think. So it all kind of just added up to me feeling like pure shit. And so we then get to the point of my 12-week scan and everything, which is when everything kind of started to go downhill. I was really excited about my 12-week scan, you know, to be able to see my baby, but when it actually came to the scan, like I said, everything went downhill. I basically found out that there was more fluid around my baby than there should have been. Like, this is my scan, and you can kind of see, oh wait, no, which one? That's the one from the side, the back. That one's from the back. So this one is the one from the side, and you can kind of see like there's a lot of fluid between like the baby's sort of neck, and but you can see like the amount of fluid that's around the baby's neck and just around the baby in general. It's not supposed to be like that. And I remember being in the scanning room with a sonographer and my boyfriend, because my boyfriend was allowed in with me, luckily. And my boyfriend was holding my hand the entire time. And obviously we both had masks on. And so I was obviously lying down as well. And so as the sonographer was scanning me, she was really quiet and I couldn't tell like what was up. I couldn't read the situation, and you know, I'm autistic as well and I can't do that anyway, so I'm just there like crying because I'm excited about the baby, but then also crying because the sonographer isn't saying anything, and I'm just like, I don't think that's normal, and it wasn't. So the sonographer went off to get a doctor to get them to look at the scan. Whilst like she was gone, my boyfriend Ryan did say that he could tell that something was wrong. So we went back into the waiting room to wait for a doctor to tell us what was wrong, and he basically said to us, most of which I couldn't understand, by the way, because I think he was Greek and he had a really thick accent. No hate to Greeks or anything, I just, you know, I was incredibly emotional. I even struggled to understand like people with the same accent as me, so because of my autism, and so, you know, add in a Greek accent, can barely understand anything. But he basically just said that, you know, the fluid around the baby is like 9.5 millimeters, like from the neck to the womb. The lining was 9.5 millimeters when it should have been, you know, 3.5 or less. It indicated that there was possibly like a chromosomal abnormality, things like, you know, Down syndrome, Edwards. There was another one, I just can't remember what it is, things like Turner syndrome as well, and I would need to go for extra testing at like a bigger hospital and get more tests basically. But the thing I do want to kind of go back to is the sort of like the happy point between like the 7 to 12 weeks. You know, obviously, you know, me and Ryan were really excited and happy about everything, and we had started planning everything. It's, like I said, he was kind of hesitant. It is something that, you know, we both wanted. We wanted it. We did. Completely forgot about that alarm, but you know, we were really excited about it, and we do want to be parents one day, but like we were also like thinking it was too soon to have that. We weren't in a place to have children, because, you know, we want to be able to give our everything to the children that we do have in the future. We were just like, well, how on earth could we possibly give that to a child now? So going back to the scan and the whole situation with that, so we were referred to like the bigger hospital to have more tests, more scans, and just find out more information, because what the doctor had told us actually at my 12-week scan was just, you know, the possibilities, and they would have to do further testing for what it actually was. That's why we were referred to a bigger hospital with like higher quality machines. Like they would be able to like actually determine what was going on. And like the extra fluid as well, they called it cystic hygroma, so I may like refer to that term as well as like extra fluid, or more fluid than there was like supposed to be at like the back of the neck. Give me a minute. That's actually my boyfriend. Hello? What? From playing on your Xbox? Seriously? You gonna let me know when you get back home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Penis enlargement coach, better leave that in your video.
In a pregnancy and abortion story video.
Fuck, okay, bye.
Just a bit of comedy in there. That's to be expected from my boyfriend though. His humour was actually the first thing that attracted me to him. But switching back to like the more somber side, you know, obviously me and Ryan were very upset about the whole thing, and I vividly remember crying in the room where the doctor was sort of like breaking the news to us when he had left after like talking to us, even though I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I could pick things out. Like once he had left, like my boyfriend had kind of told me what he could understand from the doctor. I just remember bawling my eyes out and just crying into my boyfriend's chest as he hugged me. That was so hard, and like to be honest, I was kind of just expecting to get like emotional in this video, and I will continue to get emotional. And at this point it was like December before Christmas. Like my 12-week scan was actually on the 17th of December, so we were referred to the bigger hospital and we managed to get an appointment before Christmas on the 21st. And that appointment confirmed the extra fluid / cystic hygromas. While we were there, because it was like me and my boyfriend, I decided that I wanted to have a test that tested for chromosomal abnormalities, because I think I was like 14 weeks at that point or something, and so I could have that test, 13 or 14 weeks. Did I throw up on the way to that appointment? I think I might have done. There was an appointment where I threw up on the way. There were a lot of times where I threw up in the car on the way to appointments. So yeah, we decided to do a test for chromosomal abnormalities, or I did anyway. It's, you know, what I wanted. So I had the test. They basically just stuck a needle into my stomach / womb uterus to extract cells from the placenta. It sounds worse than it actually is, and obviously there was like a 1% chance of miscarriage from it, but they just literally took cells from the placenta. And so I got the initial results, so like the preliminary results on Christmas Eve, I think, basically just saying that yeah, your baby has Down's syndrome. I then had to call up mid-January for my final results. Down syndrome was actually confirmed, and I also found out that it was a little baby boy, which really surprised me because the entire time I thought it was a girl, and I had this strong feeling that it was a girl. Turns out it was a boy, but it didn't make me love it any less. It sounds so stupid because I'm just about to talk about my abortion, but obviously, you know, I loved my baby and I still love my baby, even though, you know, he's no longer here. It is really hard, you know, but just finding out it was a boy was, you know, completely unexpected. I wasn't expecting that at all, because like I said, I thought that it was a girl. My boyfriend also thought it might have been a girl. I think the only person that really sort of got it right, like the guess about the gender, was my mother-in-law, technically. So my boyfriend's mum, mother-in-law, same sort of thing really. And so after that moment where reality hit us, Ryan and I had a lot of discussions, and I did a lot of like thinking and contemplating and ruminating, and just a lot of thinking in general. I kind of came to the decision that, you know, I love this child, I love my baby, but I can't give them what I know they deserve at the moment, like at this point in my life. I just can't, because like I do want children in the future, and I want to be able to give them the world. I want to be able to give them everything they deserve, and like I said, I can't give that at this point in my life. So it would just be so unfair to carry on when I know it wouldn't benefit me or the child. And obviously, you know, I was struggling a lot with like anxiety and depression as well, and I think that did play like a big part in my decision. Also like my physical health as well, not just mental health. My body was going through hell. Like I was really struggling with the sickness, the vomiting, everything like that. I felt so nauseous. I was throwing up almost every single day, and on a good week I wouldn't throw up for like 2 days, 3 days max, and then it would start again. I was barely eating anything. I was struggling to drink water as well. I was just really struggling, and it wreaked havoc on my body. And me and my boyfriend were just obviously talking a lot, and we were just like, we're not ready to raise a child yet. And so I came to the decision that I wanted to have an abortion, because even though we know you can never truly be ready for like parenthood and having a child, but you know, we weren't prepared at all. We weren't in a situation to like raise a child, or we're still not. You know, I'm 20 years old, he's 22. Our lives are just getting started. You know, like I keep saying, like, I want to be able to give my children the world and everything they deserve. Like, and you know, I wouldn't be able to do that if I had a child now. I want to be able to give like my children in the future everything they deserve, and obviously like I can't do that if I were to have a child now, which is why I decided that I wanted an abortion. Because of like the whole thing that was going on and everything, I was in contact with a lot of different midwives. It was hard to keep track of all of them. I was just talking to like a lot of different people about the whole thing. You know, obviously I decided to have an abortion, so I obviously told midwife my decision, but then I also had to decide what kind of abortion I wanted, whether I wanted like a medical one or a surgical one, because obviously, you know, it was at that point I was over the point where I could just take a pill. But obviously I still had to take the pills for the actual abortion. I'll get to that in a minute. So obviously the surgical one, I would be, you know, put under general anaesthetic, and they would remove it surgically. Or medically, you know, I would have to go through labour basically, push it out myself, and then it would be taken away. Photographs would be taken if I wanted them. But after thinking about it, I actually decided that I wanted the surgical option, because I thought it would just be easier for me, like with my mental health, because I didn't want to like have to go through labour, through all of that, because it would be more traumatising for me. So I decided to go the surgical way. The midwife I was like in contact with, she referred me back to BPAS, because what ended up happening like at the beginning of my pregnancy was that I had an appointment with a nurse over the phone, but it was at the point where I had decided to, you know, I had sort of come to terms with it, and I decided that I wanted to keep it. Yeah, so nothing ever happened after that. The midwife referred me to BPAS again. I then had a consultation appointment over the phone with a BPAS nurse, and then they actually wanted me to have an in-person appointment for a scan, like a scan report, even though I had already had 2 scans, like the 12-week one, the normal one, and then the anomaly one, to check for fetal anomalies obviously. And yeah, I don't actually know why they wanted doing like another scan when I had given them like my scan report and everything, or scan reports rather. So I had to go like to a clinic in, I think it was Portsmouth, which is like an hour away, and it turns out I didn't need the scan because the scan reports were enough, so it was kind of a waste of a trip. And I actually, you know, my mum took me because my boyfriend was working, I think, and I had a bit of a fiasco on the way to that appointment. At that appointment, they did try to chase up the results from like the second scan that I had in the bigger hospital, so I could make my decision. I just threw up on the way to that appointment. Like, I tried so hard. Like, my mum said to me, like, if you need to throw up, tell me, because she recently got a new, not like a new car, but like she recently got a new car after an accident, not even an accident, but basically a bus hit the back of her old one. So yeah, that appointment was basically worthless, but also kind of useful because they helped chase up those results that I needed to make my decision, and like to kind of make sure that I felt like I was doing the right thing for me, you know. And that was like the point when it was confirmed it was Down syndrome, and they had also told me that it was a boy. So yeah, they didn't actually need to do the scan. So yeah, I actually have down on my notes that it was the same day as I got the results from the bigger hospital, like the final results. And just so everyone was just giving me a lot of like information about the whole thing, and because of that I would say, you know, it was kind of like a positive experience, like a positive abortion experience, despite how ill I was. I know that's a really weird like sentence to say, but like, I had lots of support, I had lots of information, like they told me a lot, and I was prepared, very well prepared for the actual thing. Getting to the actual abortion, I feel like I'm a robot just sat here kind of explaining everything that happened, but honestly it's just because, you know, I feel like I've kind of like hardened up, toughened up, because I'll see the first few weeks, like the first couple of weeks afterwards, I was really emotional, and you know, I still get emotional, like it kind of comes in waves. Like some days I'm fine and I'm thinking, you know, I feel great, you know, I'm excited to get on with my life and everything like that. And then there are days when I'm just like, you know, there are just days where I get really emotional, really upset about the life I could have had if I had carried on. It's not that I'm just a robot here explaining everything, but it's more so the fact that, you know, I feel like my shell has like hardened. The scab is like starting to sort of heal over, but there are some days when it kind of starts opening up again. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a really difficult thing to explain, and unless you've been in a similar situation to me, or you won't understand it. So the actual thing and how it went. So the night before, my boyfriend had obviously like came down and stayed here because we would have to leave early in the morning. So I had my dinner the night before. Me and my boyfriend had like, I wouldn't say we had dinner together because I think he had already eaten actually, and so I needed to eat, you know. I had gotten back from work. I was doing a 4 till 8 the night before. I wanted to work the 2 days before because it happened on a Wednesday, and so I sort of decided that I wanted to do 4 till 8 Monday and Tuesday. I think was somewhat beneficial because it helped to sort of keep my mind off things. So I had some packet pasta. I made myself some tomato pasta, packet pasta, and had that. First couple of bites, like, I was feeling so nauseous, and I can't even really remember why, because it was like at the beginning it was that I was experiencing evening sickness for a while, and then it sort of switched to morning sickness, and then back to evening sickness apparently. More like all day sickness really. So getting back to the point, so I had a few bites of my dinner on the Tuesday and threw up again. That was like the last point when I was allowed to eat, because obviously it was a surgical procedure that I was going to have. And I will make sure to like leave links down below to all of the information and everything like that, because I don't really want to go into it in this video because I just feel like that may be a bit too much to talk about. You know, midnight was like the cut-off point for when I could eat, because my appointment was supposed to be at like 8:30 on the Wednesday, so I'd have to be there for 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, because I threw up my dinner the night before, I decided that I was just gonna have some toast, some plain toast with a bit of butter on. And so my boyfriend He ate the rest of my pasta because I was just like, there was no way I can eat that. Now, he ate that and I had some toast, and I then had to take some tablets, funnily enough, some anti-sickness tablets, and the mifepristone. I'm not entirely sure what it does, but like I said, I'll leave all of the information down in the description. Like, if you want to know more, if you're going through the same thing and you're not getting a lot of information, it will all be down in the description. So I took the anti-sickness tablets, and then half an hour later took the mifepristone, and we went to bed, like past midnight at this point, and I was still having water because I could. Yeah, we then went to bed after I'd taken the tablets, and I woke up at 3 a.m. to throw up again. So that was the second time throughout the whole experience, the abortion experience. Yeah, I threw up despite having taken anti-sickness tablets. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Luckily, it had been enough time since I had taken the tablets for them to have been absorbed into like my body and into my bloodstream to start taking effect. Comes to the morning, woke up early, got myself ready. Obviously there wasn't much to do but get dressed and just have my last sip of water, which made me sad because the last point where I could have like a sip of water was 6:30. So I think we woke up at 6. I had my last sip of water at like 6:35, I think. Just for clarification, my appointment was at 8:30, or I had to be at the clinic for 8:30, Wednesday the 19th of January. That was when I had the abortion. We obviously got in the car. Both of my parents actually took me to the clinic, me and my boyfriend to the clinic. They had just decided that they were going to take the whole day off for me to sort of take me there and whatnot. But on the car journey there, I was sick another 2 times, I think. Luckily my parents had a bucket in the car because they were just like, gotta be prepared because of the last time when we went to the Portsmouth clinic. Because I've failed to mention that I actually got my sick all over my clothes. We had to stop at like a hotel car park to clean me up. I got it all over my clothes mainly, very little in the car, which is why my mum was like, I don't know, my mum was very weird about me throwing up in the car because like it was relatively new and she didn't want it to smell like sick, which unfortunately it kind of did, and it made us late for the appointment. Anyway, going back to the day of the abortion, I threw up on the way twice, mainly just, you know, water and stomach bile, because obviously there was nothing in my system. I think that's a bit too much. We'll stop there with those sort of details. We got there and my boyfriend was, you know, basically with me for like the whole sort of preparation side of things, and he was able to be there with me at the beginning because obviously it was more of like a fetal anomaly sort of abortion, but then it was lots of different reasons, lots of different factors and aspects of our life that we had decided to have the abortion. So I then needed, when I had gotten there, like gotten myself comfortable and ready and into 2 gowns, because one of them was like for the front, then the other was like the back, so basically just a normal gown at that point. I then needed to take another tablet, but I had mentioned my acid reflux and that I had thrown up 3 times before getting to the actual appointment, and so the anesthesiologist, which is a long word and complicated word, like they wanted me to have like an anti-sickness tablet. There's another whole story. They wanted me to have the anti-sickness tablet or medication before taking the misoprostol, I don't know, but they actually didn't have the medication in the clinic for me to like have the anti-sickness stuff, so they actually had to go and get someone to go and get it from somewhere, and it was like, I'd probably say a half an hour, 45-minute wait for it. And so once it got on there, I took it because it was like a actual medicine, like to drink, you know what I'm trying to say. So I had to like basically neck it down and then take the misoprostol straight afterwards, like under my tongue. I had taken it, like a nurse / midwife was there, and then as soon as I had taken it, they had like gone off. A few seconds later, threw it all up again. It was so difficult for me to keep anything down, because obviously there wasn't anything in my stomach, and because there wasn't anything in there, my stomach fucking hated it. That I was trying to put stuff into my body, and it was just like, nope, nothing in here, we're not going to absorb this, you can fuck right off, and out it comes. Maybe a bit too much detail, I'm sorry, but like, I'm just trying to explain like my experience the best I can. Obviously, you know, not everyone is going to be like me and throw up multiple times before the actual thing. This is just my experience, and I'm hoping that, you know, everything that I'm talking about like doesn't put you off, because obviously, you know, my experience will be completely different from someone else's who doesn't have acid reflux. And I'm really sorry if you have acid reflux too, ever since you were born, because it sucks. I know it does. It's really difficult to sort of like manage, and it's incredibly uncomfortable sometimes. So after that whole malarkey with throwing up the medicine, they decided that they were going to give me an anti-sickness injection into my thigh, like the side of my thigh. So I had to pull the gown up for them to inject it with the needle, obviously. I'm so sorry, I should have put like a trigger warning for needles as well. I will make sure to do that at the beginning of this video, because I know that some people don't like needles. Like, my boyfriend is one of those sort of people, like, he doesn't like it but doesn't mind it, like he just has to look away. Like, I have to do that anyway. Like, I'm not a fucking psycho that will look at someone literally injecting me with a needle. Like, I can't do that. So I had the anti-sickness injection, I actually can't remember what it was actually called, you know, into my thigh, and then I had an anti-sickness tablet as well. I think it was Nexium that I took like half an hour after the injection, and then I took the misoprostol, which was like, I think I had to like have them under my gums. They were the ones that were under my gums, and that's the way that they're absorbed into the body. And so I had two like up here, and then about an hour later I started getting the worst cramps I have ever felt. Like, and my periods are like just normal, well, normal periods basically. Like, I get a little bit of cramping when I've had my period in the past, and that's it. When the cramps started after like the misoprostol, so the cramps after like an hour later after having those tablets, the cramps were so bad. I was in so much pain, and I'm just like, this is probably what some people experience on their periods, and I'm just like, oh my god. I honestly don't know how like people with endometriosis deal with it, because like I think they like experience that sort of pain on a regular basis, and I'm just like, oh my god, I don't actually know how they do it. I feel like I was incredibly lucky to be in that situation though, like lucky in the sense that my period cramps like aren't that bad, you know. I'm incredibly, you know, lucky in that sense, and not a lot of people are lucky enough to be in that situation. I was in so much pain that my boyfriend was just like, he let me squeeze his hand, and he was just like, you know, I'll go and get someone when it gets to a point where me squeezing his hand would hurt him. But he's like, he's made of steel. It didn't matter how hard I squeezed his hand, it didn't hurt him. But I was in so much pain, I was so uncomfortable, because like I had acid at the back of my throat from like the amount of times I threw up. I think I threw up twice in like that period of time when my boyfriend was with me, because I had like a sick bowl with me as well. And there was like at one point, because I had to take the anti-sickness tablet after the injection, I was allowed to have a cup of like a little bit of water. I was just so thankful for that little bit of water, because it helped move the acid away from like the back of my throat. It just made me feel so much better. And it was then around about 12, I want to say about 20 past 12, they started getting me ready for the whole thing. Like almost 4 hours in like the pre-op sort of stage, as in like pre-operation. 4 hours, it's a long time. I mean, I wouldn't know, because I've never had like an operation or surgery ever before, so this was like my first ever time having a surgery. It was around like 12:30, 1ish when they started getting me ready, taking me upstairs, and obviously my boyfriend had to leave, like not leave like the clinic, but he wasn't allowed like with me upstairs. He went and sat out in the waiting room, like in a separate sort of area from everyone else. So I went upstairs. I threw up again in the bathroom upstairs because I really had to go, like I had to pee. And so after I had been to the bathroom, I went back into like this little pre-surgery room where they were like getting me ready, like where there was a bed and everything. Oh, I remember they actually had to, I had my phone with me, and so they had to like take it and put it with the rest of my stuff. But for some reason, I don't know why, like majority of my stuff was actually with my boyfriend. I'm just like, why? Because I actually needed most of it, you know, especially my spare underwear, which, you know, like I think most people would know there's like a mucus plug before the baby that's to come out, and so that obviously came out, and so like they got me into the bed, put an IV into me, like, or a cannula, whatever you call it, and so they put it into this, into my elbow crease here. You can probably even see the little dip in my elbow where it was, like, yeah, you can kind of see a little dip there, and then they put like the really sticky thing over it, really sticky, to make sure it stayed in place. Like at this point I was like incoherent because obviously I'd taken those tablets, like obviously I hadn't had anything to eat or drink really, so I was incoherent and just really out of it. Like, it was the strangest feeling being moved in a bed from like a pre-op room to the operating theatre. It was a weird feeling being wheeled from the pre-op room to the operating room, operating theatre, on a bed, like looking at the ceiling, like looking up at everyone's faces and whatnot with masks on. Oh right, I remember, I didn't even have a mask on at this point because I was throwing up so much. I was just like, no point in wearing a mask because I was just throwing up so much that the mask had just come off. Throughout the pre-op sort of stage, like downstairs, went into the operating room. There was like, I want to say about 6 people or something, I don't remember. There were like midwives slash nurses, there was the anesthesiologist and whatnot. Does 6 people sound right? 4 to 6 people were there, and then the anesthesiologist, injected the anesthesia into me, and I've never had that before. It was the weirdest feeling, the anesthesia going up my arm. It was so cold, like in my vein. Vein? Is it in your vein or an artery? I would imagine it's in a vein. Yeah, because then it kind of goes back to your heart and then your brain. Like, yeah, and like that, I was out within seconds. Like the last thing I remember before like going to sleep was coughing, and they kind of had to like gently hold me down because I was like sort of raising off the bed, and they just wanted me to keep me safe, obviously. The last thing I remember is coughing and saying to the anesthesiologist, yeah, it feels weird, the cold stuff going up my vein. It was the weirdest feeling, and like if you've had that before, like, you know what it feels like. And then I woke up in like the first part of recovery, probably like half an hour later, I don't know. At this point it was around 2 p.m. time, kind of like there was no such thing as time at that point, and so I didn't actually remember when I kind of went in to surgery. So there were 2 parts to recovery after a surgical abortion. You've got like primary and then secondary. So primary is like in bed, coming back to it after the anesthesia. I woke up like half an hour later, but it felt like I had been asleep for hours. Like I just remember like a midwife gently like shaking me awake or something, and sort of like the first thought that I had was, my baby boy's gone, like he's not there anymore. That was like one of the hardest parts for me, like the emotional side of it, like because I was just thinking to myself, my baby boy's really gone, you know. And it still does affect me. Like I said, I have my good and bad days, it comes in waves, you know. Yeah, my first thought was, my baby's really gone. I remember sort of like asking the midwives questions. Did I snore? And they just kind of said like, yeah, it was a little like that, because I've been told that I snore, apparently, like by my boyfriend, by actually a lot of people, so I probably do snore. It's just like a little grunt or something. And I also asked, like, is it okay to be this emotional? And they were just like, yeah, it's perfectly normal. Like, they were just like, really reassuring, because obviously, like, I was quite upset. And that was like the main thing for me. Like, I wasn't really experiencing anything else symptom wise apart from, you know, the usual like breasts hurting because of the whole pregnancy in general, and like bleeding, but I wasn't experiencing any cramps whatsoever. So obviously I was asking those questions when I was like quite out of it, like I wasn't really with it, but I still somehow remember asking those questions. Don't ask me how, but like I didn't feel sick at all either or anything like that. I wasn't in any sort of pain, like major pain. It was just like I was just a little bit uncomfortable and, you know, down about it. So I spent about half an hour in primary recovery, or like my first part of recovery, which was half an hour, like I said, and they took like my obs a couple of times. So, you know, blood pressure mainly, I think, temperature maybe, I'm not sure, just like blood pressure, stuff like that. I don't remember, but it was mainly blood pressure that they checked a couple of times. So they checked it like when I woke up, and then when they were like getting me ready to go like downstairs into like the chairs, which were I think actually quite comfy. Oh, and I had like my blanket as well. Like there was one point that I actually forgot to mention when I was like waiting to go upstairs. There was one point like after I'd taken the tablets that I needed to take where I just got really cold, and I was sort of like shaking despite, you know, actually having been really hot beforehand, that I had to put the blanket over me that like was on the chair for me. It was the weirdest thing, and like it didn't matter how much I pulled the blanket around me, I was still shaking. Apparently that's just a symptom of the tablets. The other point I should mention is that, you know, I did cry when I had like woken up afterwards. Obviously had no recollection of anything apart from the coughing beforehand and saying to the anaesthesiologist that it felt weird going up my arm. But yeah, I was just really emotional in primary recovery, and I cried because, you know, he was really gone. So yeah, they took my obs a couple of times in primary recovery, and then when I had sort of come to it a bit more, they helped me into a wheelchair. I obviously, you know, had these weird like net sort of like, or mesh sort of pants, disposable pants, knickers on with like a pad as well, because obviously like I was bleeding, which is perfectly natural. Like they wheeled me down to secondary recovery, and they actually had to get me like a new mask because obviously I didn't actually have a mask on from where I was throwing up so much beforehand. But like, I wasn't even feeling sick at all like when I woke up. I don't know, that was just weird to me. Like I kind of thought to myself, you know, oh my god, I don't feel sick anymore, I feel cured. And in secondary recovery I was in a chair, and I think it could actually recline. Like they made me all comfortable. Like the midwives were so nice, and it was such like a smooth experience, a smooth recovery, I guess. And I was just like so comfortable, and even though I was sad, I was happy that I was getting the support that I needed and more. And in secondary recovery, I could finally have something to eat and drink. I was so fucking happy about it. Like, I fucking loved it. Being able to just eat and drink something again. They asked me like, oh, would you like a hot drink? Would you like a coffee or a tea or a hot chocolate? I'm just like, oh my god, I would love a hot chocolate. And so they made me a hot chocolate. The midwife, because there were obviously a couple in the room. There were like, I think 4 to 6 chairs. I think there were actually 4 chairs, or 5 maybe. Like 2 one side, which I was on, and then 3 the other side. And obviously they had like curtains around as well. And so like, yeah, there were 2 chairs on the side that I was on, and then 3 chairs on the other side. So there were like 2 midwives in the room as well. And I also had a packet of like bacon or rashers or frazzlers, whatever they were called. I loved it. bloody loved it. I was gonna have something else to eat, but like I was only in like secondary recovery for half an hour really, and they also made sure to like take me to the bathroom, as in show me where the bathroom was, and I checked how much I was bleeding, and it was just moderate, you know, which I think was normal. And they also took my OBS twice again in secondary recovery, and then half an hour later I got dressed. They took my IV out, which I was quite happy about. I just wanted it to get the thing out of me. I think they took it out after I got dressed. I actually remembered they had done my OBS once, like when I had like gotten there into secondary recovery in the chair, and then after like I had gotten dressed, they were like, oh, we haven't taken your second OBS, we need to do that. I was sort of like happy to get out and just have something to eat, because just eating something felt so good, because like I was just like in my head I was just like, oh my god, I'm finally cured, I am no longer sick, I can actually have something to eat without throwing it up, which just made me so happy. And it actually turns out that when I got out to see my boyfriend, like in the waiting room, it turns out that he had actually like gone to the shop. Like he had asked like a receptionist or something where there was a shop, and he had gone and gotten himself some food and some food for me. He had gotten me like a chicken club sandwich or like a chicken salad sandwich, something like that. And I was just like, oh, I don't really fancy that. But because I was so hungry, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna just fucking eat it. I think he had a prawn mayo sandwich, but yeah, he had gotten us food basically, because he phoned my mum, I think, because I was just like, you know, I don't want to do it. I was just obviously, you know, still, you know, tired from the anaesthetic and everything. Yeah, my parents came to pick us up because they had gone into the town closest by or something to do whatever for the day whilst waiting for us. Well, we'd actually gone into a shop before sort of leaving the area that we were in. When we got back, I kind of just had food, because I didn't particularly want to eat in the car, because I was just like, I get kind of motion sick, so I just wanted to wait. I did have a little bit of food in the car because we had gotten food from a shop, like a Premier, I think, or something like that. And so I did have some food in the car, like I had a couple of sweets to kind of keep me going, and I had a drink. I think I had a Ribena. So I then just kind of spent the day, when we got back around 5 p.m, me and my boyfriend just spent like the rest of the day relaxing in bed, cuddling, just taking it easy. Did I have a shower at one point? No, I think I actually showered the next day, on the Thursday. My boyfriend basically stayed until like Friday evening and then went home, I think, because he had worked the weekend. We just spent the time together, relaxed. Obviously had a bit of a cry because we were both so emotional about it. And yeah, I just spent like a few days with him in bed, cuddling and everything, relaxing, watching films, whatnot, him playing on his Xbox. I think I might have played on The Sims, but I'm not sure. But, you know, I was quite lucky that my boyfriend had those few days off of work, and for him to just be there with me so I could recover. My boobs started leaking, obviously, because I think that's supposed to be kind of natural. Boobs started leaking, which have luckily stopped now. Only lasted a couple of weeks. But obviously I was also bleeding. I was just using maxi pads. But yeah, after a few days I had recovered. Obviously, like I said, I didn't really have any sort of pain. Like, I had maybe some mild cramps and that was it. So physically, like, I've now fully recovered, but mentally I've got a long way to go. And I actually decided to do a Facebook post about it, and I've done like some information on Instagram as well about the whole thing. Mentally, I've obviously been like, it's been really tough for me. I've been quite emotional. I think my boyfriend has as well, but like we both feel like this was the right thing to do. You know, it will get better over time, and I want you to know that as well, because if you're going through like a similar situation, I want you to know that. Oh, and then my boyfriend and I did decide to give him a name, and we ended up just going with the name Ash with an E at the end, because like I just liked the name. We decided to let go of our little baby boy Ash, give our future children a chance for a good life. I'm always gonna miss my little baby boy Ash. That feeling is always gonna be there, but it will just get easier for me over time, like, and my boyfriend as well. Yeah, because we want to be the best parents we can be in the future when we do have children in the future. And I just feel like I've definitely made the best decision for like this point in my life, even, you know, despite how much I'm gonna miss my baby boy and the feeling of him being there. It does feel like the right thing to do, and I feel like a weight is kind of like lifted off of my shoulders because of it. And obviously I know it's a very like unique situation to be in, like, and have been in, and I hope that, you know, other people in my like or in a similar situation can feel less alone from this video and this whole story. I had the abortion on the 19th of January, and like I said at the beginning, that was why I took those 2 weeks off of YouTube and uploading, because I needed that time to myself, to focus on myself without focusing on like videos and video editing and everything like that. I needed that time to myself. That's why I took those 2 weeks off. My thoughts have kind of changed a bit, because like I'm now just like, I want to be a bit more relaxed about editing and everything like that with my videos, and just make the videos that I actually want to make. But that's going to be like a whole separate thing. Like, I'm just going to be a bit more relaxed about my YouTube stuff, because I want to be. Like, I'm supposed to enjoy this and I haven't been, which is why, you know, things are going to change. I am going to leave this video here. I really hope you enjoyed it somehow. I really hope that this has helped you feel less alone with everything and everything like that. Yeah, everything, like links and everything like that, information will be down in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell to be notified every single time I upload. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!